morning. It's day 20 of June 2020. We are in the middle of 2020. When you think of 2020, what comes to mind? Are you one of those who have already cancelled the year with no hope of any good thing that you think that it will come out of this year? In the beginning of the year, we all had plans to travel, plans to study. We had a picture of how this 2020 game would look like, and we were prepared for it. So what happens if the game changes and it does not turn out the way that you have planned? In soccer, you know, my son is a soccer is a soccer player. In soccer, the coach will observe and make notes on during the first half of the game, okay, on how the team is playing and performing. And then during the break in the change room, he will make some necessary half adjustments, okay? That's what best coaches do. They make changes. So we need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that before the game, the coach will have a pre-game plan, okay? But during the halftime break, he make those necessary adjustments based on what has happened in the field. So we need to understand that changes happen to all of us, sometimes faster than the other times. Why is it important? So that's why it is important for us to be agile and to be adaptable at all times. Crisis, it moves us. When bad things happen to us, it never leaves us the same. We all have a list of different things in our lives that are not the same as they were in the beginning of the year, okay? The question is not, are we moved by this crisis? We're all moved by the crisis, but the question is, which side are we moving on? Are we moving on the positive side, or are we moving on the negative side? Are we cashing in and gaining through this crisis, or are we crashing through this crisis? So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that my talk this morning will give you some encouragement through this period so that you can become a better person for yourself and for your community. I will be talking about the cashing through crisis. I just want to declare from the beginning that this is not about making more money through crisis or taking advantage of people in crisis, just like we've seen now, people like with the tenders that is happening with the sanitizers and the face mask, and people are buying Porsche and Lamborghinis. I'm not talking about that, okay? As a leader asks, how can I take advantage of this situation? Okay, how can I help those that I am leading? A leader's perspective is always people first, okay? So it's always about what is best for the people, what is best for the people. So it's the same as in crisis. In crisis, we need to have the right perspective. How you view things is how you do things, okay? So we need to understand that this is not the first crisis. This is not the last crisis. This is not the worst crisis ever. People who've lived in the 1800s, in the 1900s, our grandmothers, they will tell you about the First World War. And at that time, they thought it was the worst crisis, and they thought that things will never be back. They will never see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we need to understand that every crisis in the world has turned into some sort of a gain for the society, okay? Think about the coffee that you drank this morning, the multivitamins that you took to boost your immune system to fight against the virus. The reason that we take medicine today is because there was a crisis, okay? There was a disease and someone came up with a cure. So good things come out of bad situations. So today we are going to be talking about how do we cash on crisis and gain advantage from it. Perspective is important. How we view things is how we do things. It's very possible that you and I, Coach Tapelo, can be in the same crisis, but have two different responses to the crisis. One take crisis and cash on it, while the other one will see himself as a victim and eventually crash. So it's the same crisis, same situation, but two different responses. Our responses, they are always based on our perspective on how we view things. Albert Einstein, the great scientist, said, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." He says, it's in the middle, highlight that word, in the middle of crisis lies opportunity, in the middle. So it means it means that you have to get into the crisis before you can see how you can get the opportunity, okay? You need to get into the crisis before you can see how you can receive an opportunity from that crisis. It's not in the beginning, it's not around the crisis, but it's in the middle of the crisis, okay? And most of us here, we are in business, Coach Tapelo. So it is fitting to make a business example. In March this year, I read a Forbes article, and my topic this morning is inspired by that article. The title of that article says that coronavirus crisis is creating problems, but it's also creating tremendous opportunities. It continues to say that crisis eliminates boundary conditions and produces innovation accelerators. So this article, it illustrates the power of crisis, and it gives like a business example. It talks about, it gives an example of Ford Motor Company. A couple of years ago, I think we all know that Ford Motor Company was performing very bad financially, and recession hit in 2007, 2008. Bill Ford, who was the executive chairperson of Ford, he convinced his family members, who controlled about 40% of the company voting shares, to allow him to pledge the trademark, the blue Ford oval, as a collateral to borrow money, because so that it can help them, it can help the company to survive the recession. So they had to take, imagine they had to take their brand, they had to take what was precious to them, their trademark, as a collateral to borrow money. Saving the family legacy for them was more important than the internal politics that plagued the company at that time. So their strategy created a renewed sense of focus and a willingness to take risk, which allowed the organization to break through and make real changes. So this is a story of an amazing corporate turnaround. Ford is an example, is an excellent example of how crisis can also be an innovation accelerator. Crisis makes you do things that you will never think of doing without crisis. It will make you do things that you will never even think of doing if there was no crisis, okay? Think about it for a moment, right? There are some changes that we will not make unless we are forced to make those changes. So based on this Ford example, let me just give you about 3 accelerators that you can take advantage of during crisis. Number 1, crisis changes the balance of risk and reward. Crisis changes the balance of risk and reward. During the normal situation, we don't take risk a lot. We enjoy where we are. We enjoy our comfort zone. We avoid taking risk. Under normal circumstances, the fear of failure always overrules the argument of change. So organizations, they are normally biased towards avoiding risk. But in crisis, the dynamic shifts dramatically. The real risk is remaining and not doing anything. That is the main risk during the crisis. It's not doing anything. So we move from asking, should we change, to we have to change. So this means that crisis, it helps us to realize that we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The second one is that crisis increases focus. Organizations, they have what we call competing and conflicting priorities. Priorities that conflict with where we want to go, and some they compete with what we're trying to accomplish. So there are a lot of activities in the organization that are not necessary accomplishment. But what does crisis do? Crisis, it eliminates those things. It eliminates things that are not necessarily essential in the business. That's why now we like the organization, they start to even to retrench. Then they start to say, okay, now this is like what is important for our business. Now they start to think about what is important for their business. Okay, so during crisis, organizations, they start to think about what to have versus the nice to have. Okay, so when your back is against the wall, you stop spreading your focus all over, but you direct all your attention to what really, really, really matters. Okay, so this means that crisis, it makes people to eliminate distractions and push forward towards a common goal. The third one is that crisis, it identifies leaders. The real leaders during crisis, they show up, okay? So what do leaders do during crisis? They stand up. Real leaders come alive during crisis. You tend to see now who are the real leaders during crisis. Crisis reveals the real leaders. My mentor and coach, John Maxwell, likes to say that there are pretenders and also there are players. And then he says that real players, they come through crisis. So crisis, it separates the players from the pretenders, okay? So organization is filled with managers who have good intentions, but they are not willing to take the risk. They have good intentions, they are not willing to take the risk. They are part of the culture that rewards hitting the goal, hitting the target, and not taking on any challenge that might be difficult to solve. They accept the boundary conditions for what they are. And they only do what they are supposed to be doing, and not to stretch their limits to what is possible. But the tricky part here is that you cannot manage your way out of crisis. You need to lead your way out of crisis, okay? So crisis, it requires people who are focused on solving problems. Problems cannot resolve themselves. Somebody has to step up. Somebody has to find a solution. Somebody has to lead, and somebody has to find a better way, okay? So crisis, it gives leaders an opportunity to step up, and it also gives them a license to ignore the status quo in pursuit of something better. So in the middle of crisis, opportunities begin to show up. So look at what is happening right now. Let's look at what is happening right now in the education sector, for instance. For almost three months, our children have been home, like homeschooling, and some are still not back at school. Students have been taught online by their teachers, online But we need to understand that online classes and homeschooling is not something that is new. It's been happening for years, but only few learners have been doing it. During lockdown, now all learners have been forced to do homeschooling, to do take online courses. So now more parents and more kids are exposed to homeschooling. People are starting now to think of online courses, homeschooling as an option they never thought about before the COVID-19. People are now exposed to another way of learning. This morning we are here in this summit at the comfort of my home. You're also at the comfort of your home. You see, things have changed, and and there are benefits to it, okay? Imagine if we did not have this COVID-19, I think I probably would have traveled to Free State, Coach Tapelo, to give this talk. But now I have no limitation. I have the freedom of time. So those are the benefits. I'm cashing in on what is happening with this crisis. So crisis brings about changes. And we have seen if we also have to think about, I've said at the beginning of this call that I've been working from home. Okay, it's been 3 months now. I've not been in the office. I've been working from home. So if now we have been working from home, it means now also the workspace, things are going to shift in the workspace. Things are going to change in the workspace. It means now going forward, we might not even need an office space. We can work from home. I can work for a company in Durban while I reside in Johannesburg or Cape Town, for that matter. So crisis, it does create difficulties for people, but it also creates opportunities for innovation across many industries. So this is the time for people to take more risk, focus on what really, really, really matters, and embrace the opportunity to lead. Crisis makes us to make changes we never thought we would make if there was no crisis. It pushes us out of our comfort zone into our creative zone. If we don't get the push, if we don't get the kick in the butt, we will not have moved from our comfort zone to our creative zone, okay? So in the middle of crisis, there are two kinds of people. The first kind are the people who will say, how long will this last? They will ask, how long will this last? By the way, we all ask that question, okay? But it becomes a problem when we camp there, okay? The second type of people are those who will ask, while I'm in this crisis, how can I get better? How can I improve? And what can I learn? How can I make this situation a stepping stone instead of making it a stumbling block? Okay, so Coach Tapelo, we need to understand that there are a few things that we need to understand about crisis and bad experience. Like number one, that everyone, each and every one of us has bad experience. Everyone, we are all in the middle of this. We are all affected by the crisis, but it's what we do with the experiences that we get that defines who we become, okay? Also, no one likes bad experiences. No one loves bad experiences. No one wakes up in the morning and say, oh, wow, okay, I'm so looking forward to have bad experiences today. No one says that. But bad experiences and crisis is part of our journey. We live in a world of ups and downs. Muhammad Ali once said that you don't lose if you get knocked down, but you lose if you stay down. So it's either you are up or you are getting up. Okay? And also, we need to understand that there are few people who turn bad experiences into positive experiences. And those people, they understand that in every experience that you have options. And that means there is a hope, okay? Having a positive experience about, having a positive perspective about any crisis, about any bad experience that you have, it does not mean that you deny reality. It just means that you acknowledge even that even the toughest circumstances, they always have a way through them. I am a person of faith. I believe in God. The Bible says, Paul says in the Bible that he reminds us that you will do best by filling your minds and meditating on true things, things that are noble, things that are authentic, things the best and not the worst, the beautiful and not the ugly, things to praise and not things to curse. So, but what happens during crisis, we curse a lot more than we praise a lot. So I encourage you that you find every day when you wake up in the morning, find something that you are thankful for, find something that you are grateful for, and that will shift your perspective, okay? Napoleon Hill said, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it a seed of an equal or greater benefit. Let me say this again. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it a seed of an equal or greater benefit. I will not get an equal or greater seed of benefit from crisis unless I believe this to be true. If I believe that nothing good will come out of this crisis, then I will not gain in and I will not cash in on this crisis. So we need to understand, we need to have a great perspective when it comes to, we need to have a way of viewing this, the crisis, okay? I said earlier on, how you view things is how you do things, okay? I'm going to give you a few perspective principles on how you can win and how you can gain through and cash in through this crisis. Everything worthwhile is uphill. We are not given an overcoming life, but we are given a life to overcome. We need to understand that life is not easy. No one said that life is easy. However, if we are willing to do the hard things, over time, those hard things, they compound in value. They compound in value to create a life that we would have never imagined outside the crisis. Number two is that there's always an answer. Even in the hard times, even in crisis, there's always an answer. The greatest gap between the successful people and those who are not successful, it is their thinking. That's what we call a thinking gap. Successful people, they live on the other side of yes. And as a result, they find the answers other people they miss, okay? They always say yes, and I'm available. If you look into the Bible, if you look in the story of, I think that's a beautiful story, the story of David, there was a crisis, but he stood, like he came to the challenge, while even the soldiers were afraid of Goliath, but he came to the challenge. He said, yes, I am available. Number three is that allow crisis to help you to discover who you really are. When we get that kick at the butt, our comfort zone becomes dismantled and our usual support, it falls away. We also lose the illusion of who we think we should be. And then that's when we start now to come face to face with who we really are. Sometimes it takes crisis to introduce us to ourselves. This season of crisis might be the catalyst for you to become the person that you were meant to be. Number 4, feed your faith and starve your fears. We need to remember that positivity fuels faith, but negativity fuels fear. Faith and fear are always present inside, in us. They are both present in each of us. We need to remember that both faith, we say faith comes by hearing, but also fear, it also comes by hearing. So it's important to know that what you expose yourself to, it will determine whether you'll be cashing in or you'll be crashing through crisis. I always say to people, I don't watch news, I check news. What you do first thing in the morning, if you first thing in the morning you go and watch news and you see it has an impact in your day. So it's important how you feel your mind and how you feed. So you need to feed yourself with faith, and then you starve your fear. Okay. People who focus on faith, they are able to move forward in times of crisis, while those who focus on fear, they become emotionally stuck. And when you are stuck, you will not move, and when you will not move, you will eventually crash. Okay. And number 5, always have the big picture. Look at the big picture. In crisis, people will ask, how will this crisis affect me? It's always like people who've got people who've got limited thinking, it's always about them. It's always, how will this affect me? Okay. So to battle against that limiting thinking, we must always keep the big picture. Always keep the big picture in mind. So a person who sees a small picture is only concerned with how the diversity impacts them and their lives. They are not concerned about how their actions might affect someone else. Do you guys remember the panic buy at the beginning of COVID? Remember the toilet paper stories? So it's all about me. You don't think about the other person, but when you have a bigger picture, you think about now how my actions will affect other people. Another thing that we need to understand about crisis is that crisis, it makes a person grow strong. You become matured through crisis. Even in the midst of crisis, we still have control of who we are and who we become. Challenging times can become the seedbed of our personal growth if we choose to be stretched and choose a path of personal growth. Okay. If you look at the greatest leaders in the world, their best lessons were birthed through crisis. Okay. Even the greatest books ever written, they were created from crisis. They were created from bad experience of the author. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I just want to give you just about few things that you need to you can use to cash in and win during crisis. Number 1 is be bigger than your fears. I've made an example earlier on of David. Okay, remember how David took down Goliath, regardless of him being a giant, regardless of everyone else being terrified to challenge Goliath. I think it was for about 40 days. For 40 days, Goliath will challenge the Israelites, demanding a one-on-one battle with them. They were so afraid, they were terrified. None of them would challenge Goliath. But it took a young boy, David, who accepted the challenge as if it was just a child's game, okay? So he did not allow the giant, he did not see the giant, but he knew like that the God that is in him is bigger than the giant, okay? So you must be bigger than your fears. Starve your fears and increase your faith, okay? The second one is size does not matter. Size does not matter. In life, we are all bound to come across big challenges, small challenges, tiny challenges, and like enormous challenges. But the size of the challenge, the problem, or the obstacle is not relevant. Why? Because that does not determine what's possible for you. The size of your challenge does not determine what is possible for you, okay? So the third one, you must make use of what you already have. People complain about what they don't have. They complain about what they don't have. They always say, I need this thing before I can get started. I'm not starting because this thing is holding me back. So I want to encourage you that start small, start now, but still dream big. The other time my son said, what would you do if you knew that there is no time like the present? What would you do if you knew that there was no time like the present? So there's no time like the present. You need to start now, okay? And number 4, don't underestimate your capabilities. It's very dangerous to underestimate yourself, and you need to understand that you will never outperform your self-image. So when you underestimate yourself and your own capabilities, you end up achieving less. In conclusion, I just want to say to you, we have all been handed lemons. I've got these lemons. We have all been handed lemons. So the question is, what are you going to do with the lemons in your hands? All I can say to you, my friends, is that go and make a lemonade or a facial toner that will be a cleanser for your skin to make your skin glow. Thank you very much. I am Bongiwe Mbebe.
Drop the mic right there. Drop the mic. Look, David was not going to be so famous if it wasn't because of David role playing, you know. So sometimes it takes the monster for you to have a celebrity moment, you know. Our faith is made best in our West. So I acknowledge what you're saying, because the book of Daniel ministered it well to our hearts when it shows us that every time they went through challenges, they came out as better people. So we need to embrace challenges that we come across. But Coach Bongi, we see a lot of people fall into victim mentality during this critical time, you know. A lot of people are falling into a victim mentality. Perhaps the rephrase word would be, what drives people to a victim mentality?
Mm-hmm. It's all about the bigger picture, okay? When you don't have the bigger picture, because you only see what you have before you. You don't have the bigger picture. Also, is if you know who you are, and if you know whose you are, you've made a reference to the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, it says, those who know their God shall do great exploits.
I love the fact of what you say. You just remind me of some words that we are a moving Bible. We are in fulfillment of scriptures. If it's not because of the crisis, then the scriptures such as His grace is sufficient all the time will not be brought to life. So now, how you respond to crisis, it speaks about who you are.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you very much. There
Greater
is something that I want.
is in me than the one that is in the world. Greater is he that is in me. Yes.
Done.
Than the one that is in the world.
Wow. I wanted you to unpack, I think it's the second accelerator that you spoke about. Conflicts and priorities. Conflicts and priorities. Please, because I kept on missing parts when you were explaining it.
Okay. So you have competing priorities, and then we also have conflicting priorities. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So during that's what happens during the normal situation. Okay. We have so many things that we want to do, like in the organization. Okay. We want to do this, and then we spread ourselves thinly during that. But when it comes, when it's crisis, when crisis comes, then you focus more on what really matters, and then you discard everything, because like during the normal times, everything we think everything is important. Everything is important. Everything is important. You know those urgent things. Everything is urgent. Everything is urgent. Everything is urgent. But not everything that is urgent is important.
Most definitely. I totally agree. I totally agree. All right, Coach, let me go to the audience and hear. All right. Tabang Mabunda saying, no, your child is a soccer star, not a player. And then Joseph Ludi say, don't underestimate your capabilities. Thank you, Coach B. Wow, thank you, Nebongi. When I heard the word cashing in thoroughly crisis, the first thing that came to my mind was financial capitalizing on my perspective, and made me realize that crashing is not only on monetary value, but one can cash in on values and change in a character through crisis. And then Dadele Muhammad say crisis brings focus. Wow. Auspongi, let me ask this question again. There's a speaker who said we don't want to be associated with anything that is broken. We don't want to be associated with anything that is broken. There is a time in life, whether in a career, whether in a entrepreneurial journey, or whether in any space that you pursuing, where it needs you to learn and not to earn. And sometimes it needs you to earn what you would have learned. Why is it so crucial for us to be able to acknowledge such moments?
Okay, so you said you mentioned something about broken. We don't want to associate ourselves with brokenness, right?
Yeah, she said a lot of people don't want to be associated with things that are broken. And as a result of that, because the broken of us sometimes can be a preach or a passage that leads us to stopping earning but starting to learning, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. In order for anything that is better, it must be broken. Anything that is beautiful, it must start with broken. If you want to build a house, what happens if you've got the house that you have right now, you've got a 1-bedroom house that you have right now. If you want to extend it, what do? You dismantle, you break it down, but you don't break down the foundation, okay? But you break down the walls. You need to break it down. You need to break down before you can start to expand and learn. And I think that's the most important thing, or the critical thing that happens. People, they don't want to grow, okay? For you to grow, you need to learn and unlearn all the lies that you've learned before. But the challenge is we don't want to learn anything new. That is like the fixed mindset wants you think that you want to be proper, but a growth mindset wants you to be stretched, it wants you to be broken. You can never grow if you're not broken. Things that are beautiful, they are like the beautiful mosaic masterpiece, it comes from broken glasses. It's made from broken glasses. Yeah.
A lot of time, what hinder us from progressing, it is knowing that we never did something that we're supposed to do. You were one of the people who made me get married to this phrase. Don't let what is wrong with you stop you from worshiping what is right with God.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Now, problems, and that's another thing with problems. They bring us closer to God. They bring us closer to our source. They bring us, like at times it goes back to that small limiting mindset. When you know who you are, when you know whose you are, if God can never fail, he will not start with you. He has never failed before. Why must he start with me? He will never start with me. So it's about understanding who you are and whose you are.
At the same time as people dwell too much to the negativity and the downfall of the lockdown, in your own space, what is a good thing that came out of this critical time, you know?
Okay.
Because I can just attest when we planned the summit, it was just the Free State thing. But now when we expand the invitation to speakers, we ended up going to Africa. We ended up attracting the audience of Africa. Now you and few of the John Maxwell speakers are internationally recognized. Now, meaning we are listening to 5 of the people who are very influential to you in your space. So now I think we qualify enough to call ourselves that we are a global summit.
Yes. Yes. Remember before things that have changed now, before COVID-19, before, like as I've mentioned before, we're limited. We're going to have this conference in a venue. Okay, it was going to be in a venue. You never thought about like you were forced to do the online summit. Okay, you were forced. The crisis forced you to do the online summit. But when you are forced to do things, you end up now influencing. You are influencing even greater beyond what you thought you were going to. Because now, if you were going to have like a venue, like in Free State, it was going to be a venue of so many people. Right? But now we are influencing, and that's what we want to have. We want to see, like, want to influence the world. Like, we have to influence the world. This is pushing us to influence and fructify and multiply.
Fructify. Coach, thank you very much. What are some of the programs that you're currently offering, and how do we keep track with you? How do we follow your work?
Okay, so I'm the founder, I've mentioned earlier on, I'm the founder of the Fructified Creations, and my first love is the youth. Okay, my first love is the youth. I want to empower youth. I want to cultivate. I always call myself as the leadership gardener. So my role is to cultivate and bring out the greatness in them. So, and also in the marketplace as well. I also have that in the marketplace. So what normally I have sessions on Saturdays. I have sessions that are running on Saturdays. I call this growth by design. So it's a yearly program, but we have every month we have a series every month. But now this one is for the adults. Okay, this one is for the adults. So this month of June, we're going through the leadership, talking about the leadership goals, the gold nuggets that make us to be better leaders. So that's what we do every Saturday morning. And that's the program that we have. And also for the youth, we also have some sessions. To get me, it's on my, if you are more interested, you can send me an email to fructifiedcreations@gmail.com. fructifiedcreations@gmail.com. I'm also available on Facebook and on Instagram. Bongiwe, Mbebe, Fructified Creations.
Before I let you go, Coach, there is a global call that it's made that there is a huge demand of leaders who can produce global solution with a global mindset to our local problems. And with so far understanding, you are few of the international leaders that we have in the country. So I want you to speak to a girl child about occupying and answering the call to becoming a leader in their respective space.
Okay. The issue that we have currently with for women, as women in general, okay, is we don't, okay, I'm working in the industry, in the engineering industry. And in my industry, we don't have so many women. That is number one. And number two, we don't get the same opportunities as men. That is a fact. And we don't get paid as men. But the issue is now when we get into these spaces, when we are invited in the table, when we're invited now in that table, I've seen in like now people who are like in the boardrooms, women who are in the boardrooms, I've seen people, they want to wear garments that are not theirs. Okay. You were made to be a woman. You were created to be a woman, not to be a man. So you cannot lead as a man. You have to lead as a woman. Okay. I think that's the first thing that's the first mistake that women do. They want to lead as men. You cannot lead as men. If at home, because at home, you are a mother, you are a nurturer, like you are a caregiver. That comes to you naturally. So you have to apply those same principles in the workplace. So you can never shift who God created you to be. I just want to say, like to the young girl, know who you are, own who you are, and embrace who you are. Girl child, you are more than enough.
Thank you very much, Coach Bongi. On behalf of Mind Think Institute family and also the attendees, thank you very much for stealing your time. You're supposed to be with your group, but thank you very much for coming and watering our seat of knowledge. We still continue, ladies and gentlemen. This brings us to the end of our third week Online Entrepreneurial Summit, where we were looking at strategies. Next week, Monday, we're starting with Ching Ching Baba. We speak money, which brings us to the last week of the summit. I'm hoping so far you've been growing, you've been becoming better, and you've been not only listening and feeling good, but you've been sitting down and applying everything that is needed. Remember, you cannot rise beyond the voice that you listen to. Sometimes it takes the voice that is in the next level to elevate you to the next level. So until we meet on Monday, please stay safe, stay blessed, and may the good God bless you abundantly with whatever intentions that you have. My name is Motawun Tapelo, and like I always say, you are the best and the unbeatable element of success. Until we meet on Monday, I am out. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.